Okay, so we'll start today. Yesterday we have done till the assumption. So I'll give 2 more minutes for people to join. And those who are there in the class, they are requested to please put up their names and numbers. So let's start today with the criticism of Say's law. As we are already known that Professor James Nees was one of the finest experts of macroeconomics. So, in his general theory, what he has done is he has made a frontal attack on the classical postulates and Say's laws of markets. Moreover, the Say's law of market is criticized by Professor J.M. Knees on multiple grounds. It's not just one. The first criticism that was placed on the Say's law of markets is that supply does not create its demand, which this is something even we have had a word about, that it's not possible for any product to create its own demand. So that is what he's saying, that the Say's law has assumed that production creates market for the goods. Therefore, supply will create its own demand. But this proposition is not applicable to modern economics. Why? Because in modern economics, the demand will not increase in the same proportion as production. It is also not possible to consume only those goods which are produced within the economy. Because nowadays, what we are having is we are having an open economy. So we can get the goods from anywhere at all. If you're thinking that a person will be producing only, will be consuming only those goods which are made in their economy, then that is wrong. It is not true. The next criticism is self-adjustment. The Say's law said that income and expenditure, they'll self-adjust themselves. In the long run, even employment will self-adjust itself. That is what the Say's law was stating. No, so now, according to the Say's law, full employment is maintained by an automatic and self-adjusting mechanism in the long run. But Nees had no patience to wait for the long period, because he believed that in the long run we are all dead. Quite a pessimist approach, but okay. Even he was right in this, in his own ways, that yes, in the long run we'll all be dead. So we don't know what is going to happen in the long run. Instead of waiting for that long run, what we can do is we can start right now. And right now, how we will start? We will start by making changes in the short run itself. So, moreover, he also believed that there is no automatic adjustment process which will remove unemployment. And unemployment can only be removed if you increase the rate of investment. Whereas what Say was saying, that if you increase the rate of investment, the interest will go down and the person will start saving more. Sorry, the interest will go up and the person will start saving more. So the investment will be balanced. He's saying that is not going to happen, neither in long run nor in short run, because long run doesn't exist, and in short run, if you want to increase employment, you have to make an investment. Then it was also been said by Professor James Nees that money is not neutral. How can you neutralize the effect of money? How can you neutralize the effect of something which is never neutral for any economy? It's like you're saying that we are standing in Mahabharat and Arjun is neutral. He is neither on the positive side nor on the negative side. Is it possible? Was that possible? That you were standing in the Mahabharat and Arjun was neutral? No, it was not possible. Similarly, money cannot be neutral in macroeconomics. It will have its effect. So the Say's laws of market is based on barter system, and it ignores the role of money in the system completely, because they believe that money does not affect the economic activity of the market at all. Is that true? No, that is not true. You know, padhate time even we were having this discussion that this is so not sane. So that is what Professor James Cleese is also saying, that this is so not sane. He has given due importance to money. Why? Because he regarded money as the medium of exchange. That is, it's only with the help of money that you can exchange goods and services for that. You can rate something properly and you can get something in return. This is something like money is something which is the reason behind many things. It is your income, it is a motivating fact towards business, it is profit. Then if you are having something like right now, we cannot even say contingency situation, because from last 1 year we are in a contingency situation only, aren't we? How many of you think that from last 1 year we all of us are in a contingency situation? Contingency का मतलब पता है? Yes, no, पता नहीं. Someone has to give me a reply. No. Contingency situation is not based on situation. Contingency is something which is it is emergency. It is unforeseen situation, not situational swarm. Situational is not an or uncertainty. Yes, it is basically an unforeseen circumstances. That is unpredictable, unforeseen. Yes. But it is not situational. No, it is not seasonal. It is not situational. It is not known to us. So yes, now do you believe that we are in we are in a contingency situation from last 1 year? And Professor J.M. Knees is saying that there is no long term. We all will be dead in long term. But now we have seen a contingency situation for such a long period of time. Okay, that is jokes apart. Let's continue. Because money is having a lot of power in the economy, and we are able to see that everyone is trying to have a certain amount of money in the form of income, in the form of profit. Even in order to meet the contingency situation, the businessman tries to keep certain amount as reserve activity also, so that in future if something arises, they can meet it. Then the other criticism is on overproduction and underemployment situation. Now what Say said was that overproduction is impossible. He was based on the proposition that supply will create its own demand and there cannot be a general overproduction. But these said that he is not ready to agree to this proposition because according to him all income which is occurring to the factors of production is not spent. Even in the circular flow of income we could see that there were leakages, there were surpluses, injections and leakages were there. So what Professor Knies said that the income which is occurred from all factors of production is not utilized. Some of the fraction or some of the amount of it is saved, and that savings it is not automatically invested. Therefore savings and investment are not always equal, and that becomes the problem of overproduction and unemployment. Like there are some people who are not interested in the market investment at all. What they do is whatever saving they are having, they will keep that amount of saving for their future contingency situations. They'll not use it. Neither they will they invest it. वो उनके बैंक अकाउंट में पड़ी रहती है. So that is something because of which this problem of overproduction and unemployment is created. Then, as per se, there was nothing like unemployment, but please regard it that full employment is a special case because there is underemployment in capitalist economy, there is overemployment in democratic economies, but there is no complete employment. Now, why is this? This is because the capitalist economies do not function according to the Say's law. And supply is always exceeding its demand. Everything is always available. And even below it. But why is there underemployment? Because they're not able to find the employment. काम है ही नहीं. दे कहां से? This is not the case in India. In India, there's a lot of work. In India right now, forget Say's law or Knies law. Currently in India, what we are facing is we are facing the conditional unemployment. Basically, the people that an employer wants is a person with certain capabilities, but the people they are getting are unemployable in nature. उनको लिया ही नहीं जा सकता. They are not conversant enough. So there is a situational unemployment existing in India right now. We are having employable lot. We are having unemployable. We are having employed people. We are having unemployed people, and we are having unemployable people who are trying for employment. And then they are saying India is having unemployment. But chalo, that is something else. Okay, the next problem that, or the next issue that Knies has with the Say's law of market is state intervention. Now, Say's law is based on the existence of laissez-faire policy. But the policy that is highlighted by Knies is that there is a need for state intervention in the case of general overproduction and mass unemployment. He said that you have to interfere. Whereas the Say's law, which was based on laissez-faire, is one of the very good reasons which led us to Great Depression. Because the capitalist system had been automatic and self-adjusting, thus would not have occurred if the Say's law was right. Therefore, Knies advocated that the state intervention for adjusting the supply and demand within the economy through fiscal and monetary measures is important. It is only the state which can stabilize everything. It is only the government which can stabilize only thing. There is no automatic mechanism which will work. Then is equality through income. Now here Knies does not agree with the classical view that the equality between savings and investment is brought about the mechanism of interest rate. That is what he is saying. कि अपने आप नहीं हो सकता. But In reality, it is the change in income rather than the rate of interest which will bring the two to equality. If there is a increase in income, then there will be an increase in investment also. Until and unless there is an increase in income, no one is going to increase the investment, no matter what your rate of interest is. If I need to buy 16 kgs of wheat from my income, I'll buy 16 kgs of wheat. I'll not make an investment just because the rate of investment has interest has increased from 3% to 7%. मेरे महीने का खर्चा कैसे चलेगा अगर मैंने इन्वेस्टमेंट बढ़ा दिया तो? You tell me that. Tell me. If I'll increase my investment just because there was an increase in the rate of interest, मेरा महीने का खर्चा कैसे चलेगा? नहीं चलेगा. So until yes, it will be difficult. So until and unless there is an increase in my income, I will not take any decision of increasing my investment also. Okay, let's move ahead. Now, wage cut is not a solution. Now, Pigou favored the policy of wage cut in order to solve the problem of unemployment. They said, ना पैसे कम कर दो तो लोग ज्यादा employ हो जाएंगे. But Knees opposed such a policy both from the theoretical and the practical point of view. Now, what was the theoretical point of view? The wage cut policy will increase unemployment instead of removing it. अगर आपने पैसे देना कम कर दिया, then a person will not be able to achieve the target of their daily income which they have to achieve. So there will be more unemployment, and practically a worker is not prepared to accept a wage cut. One fine day you are going and telling your employee that till yesterday I just had you, so I used to pay you 15,000 rupees, 20,000 chalo. So I used to pay you 20,000 rupees. Now from today I have hired one more person, so from today I'll pay you 10,000 rupees only. And in this response, as per sales policy, what should a worker do? He should say, okay sir, no problem, and he should go back to his work. Is that going to happen? No, that's not going to happen. As simple as that. So what did Knees do is, he favored a flexible monetary policy to a flexible wage policy. Because only a flexible wage policy and a flexible monetary policy are capable enough of increasing the rate of employment in the economy. Then the another possible problem which was being faced in SAYS economy, in the SAYS policy, was just a second, but I'll be starting again. Kids, there's a disturbance in the voice. If anyone's mic is on, then they can please check, because I cannot see any of the mics on. Okay, so we'll continue, because mic तो किसी को on दिख नहीं रहा मुझे. Okay, so he stated that with the help of flexible monetary policy to a flexible wage policy, we can actually rise the level of employment in the economy. Then it was stated that demand creates its own supply. That was Say's law of market. It was based on this proposition only. And Knees has criticized this proposition and propounded the opposite view, that is, demand creates its own supply. Unemployment results from the deficiency of effective demand, because people do not spend the whole of their income on consumption. That is what Mies said. So these were certain criticism that Mies provided to the law of say. And when he has criticized the other law so much, let's go through what his law was. What what was the theory of Mies for income and employment? Now, the Keynes theory of the determination of equilibrium income and employment is something which is focusing on the relationship between the aggregate demand and aggregate supply. Now, what he is saying that according to him, the equilibrium employment, that is income, is determined by the level of aggregate demand in the economy, given the level of aggregate supply. That what is the level of aggregate supply and what is the demand in the economy. On the basis of that, we can derive the total equilibrium of employment in that particular economy. So so the level of employment is the level at which the aggregate supply is consistent with the current level of aggregate demand. That will become your equilibrium level of employment, in which you can get maximum possible output, or sorry, maximum possible employment. That is what equilibrium is about. So here the theory, what is the theory? Believing that the demand creates its own supply, rather than the classical claim of supply creates its own demand. Where whenever there is a demand in the market, there'll be supply in the market. Because if the customer wants something, the producer will definitely and happily give it. But if there is something already in the market, there is no chance that a customer is going to buy it. So Keynes' theory of income and employment was exactly opposite to the Say's law. In the following section, what we'll discuss the concepts of aggregate demand function, aggregate supply function, and finally the point of effective demand. So let's go ahead. Now, what is aggregate demand? Basically, the amount of total receipts which all the firms expect to receive from the sale or output that they have produced by the total number of workers they have employed is termed as aggregate demand. So here we are able to see that the aggregate demand increases with the increase in the number of people employed. The level of employment is over here. Check exactly about the logo of Marwadi University on the screen. There you can find the level of employment, and on the y-axis you can find the aggregate demand price. Okay, so here we can say that as and when there will be an increase in the aggregate demand, the level of employment will keep on rising. Now this aggregate demand function curve is a rising curve, as it is shown in the figure. Generally, the demand function curve is a falling curve, but here the aggregate demand curve with respect to employment is a rising curve. Average demand function is, this is what it is. If anyone wants to draw it in their notes or take down the notes, they can do that. I'll wait for you for a minute or two. And those who have just joined the class, they are requested to please put down their names and numbers for the attendance purpose. Any attendance marked after 12:20 will not be considered as present. And those who have already mentioned their name and number once, they are requested not to do it again. Shall we move ahead? Should I consider whomsoever wanted to copy the graph have done it? Okay. Let's move ahead. Now, uh, from the graph, we can see that the total expected receipts were the level of employment. So the total expected receipt will increase with the increase in the demand, and with the increase in the demand, the level of employment will also increase. As you can see over here, that D1 and L1 was least, then D2 and L2 were increased, and it can go on further and further as and when we'll move. So OLF is the full employment level. Initially, the aggregate demand function rises very sharply, as increase in the number of employment will lead to the increase in the society's expenditure also. If you'll increase the money in public's hand, then definitely they'll go and spend it in the market, and your demand will rise very steeply. So after a point of time, the expected sales will also rise in the initial gap, because people are having money in their hands, so they're going to buy, they're going to make a purchase, and everything is going to happen. But there is no much increase in employment, income, expenditure, and therefore the producer expected sales receipt in the economy will not be increased as much as they were increasing initially, as we are reaching near the full employment. So the ADF curve will become perfectly elastic, that is horizontally, as you can see. It will become perfectly elastic as the economy reaches itself near full employment. See, in this area, it is perfectly elastic. It is going up, but now you can see it is becoming flatter in the last part. So the aggregate demand in Knees' theory of income determination is society's planned expenditure, whereas in laissez-faire economy, it consists of consumption expenditure and investment expenditure. So basically, we can say that a society's planned expenditure is a more better method of income determination. Thus, aggregate demand is always equal to the planned expenditure, which is equal to C plus I. Now, what is C plus I? C is the level of disposable income, that is income minus taxes, and I is the exogenous in the short run. The short run aggregate demand function can be written as O dash. Here, if there was any demand function, short run demand function, that it can be written as O dash. Okay, let's move ahead with the aggregate supply function. What is aggregate demand function? Aggregate demand function is the total receipts which are received by an individual in the economy, and as and when will reach full economy or will reach near full economy, the increase in employment, income, and expenditure will not be as drastic as it was there in the beginning. Now let's discuss the aggregate supply function. Now, what is the aggregate supply function? This is something which is determined by physical and technical condition of production. In short run, it will remain constant, that given the technical conditions, the output, they cannot, in the short run, can be increased only by increasing the employment or labor. But in long term, you can change the technical conditions and bring new machinery, and even without increasing the employment or labor, you can increase the production. So the aggregate supply, or what it is called as aggregate supply price, is the amount of total receipts which all the firms must expect to receive from the sales of output produced by the given number of worker employed. Here the aggregate demand was the total receipts which all the firms are expected to receive from the sales of output produced by the number of people, and here supply is also the same. In other words, aggregate supply price is the total cost of production which is incurred by the producer for employing a certain number of workers in the firm. What are they doing in the firm, and the cost which a firm incurs in order to employ them, that can be termed as aggregate supply function. Obviously, this price will increase with the increase in number of workers employed. If you increase the number of workers, your aggregate supply function will also rise, and at full employment it will become perfectly elastic, that is vertically. Now this is something which is shown in the figure over here. Here it is perfectly elastic. Here it is rising and it is becoming perfectly elastic. So it can be seen that the aggregate supply price or the cost of production in SL1 at OL, that is the level of employment, then it will increase to SL2 with the level of employment as OL2, and initially the aggregate supply function will rise slowly because the labor is abundant, and they're leading to a very slow increase in the cost of production. You're having too much labor, so dheere dheere badhega. But later on it will show a sharp rise as and when the economy is reaching to full employment. So the aggregate supply function will therefore rise sharply at full employment, and when we are near full employment, it will become perfectly elastic. Like our aggregate demand function was becoming fully elastic at a certain level, that is, it kept on increasing and then it became elastic, that is horizontally elastic, when the economy was reaching full employment. The similar thing will happen over here also, that when the economy is reaching full employment, the aggregate supply function will become completely elastic, but demand function is becoming horizontally elastic and this one is becoming vertically elastic. Just give me 2 minutes. Is there anyone who haven't? I'll explain the graph. Just give me the time of 2 minutes. I just need to have a sip of water. If there is anyone who haven't mentioned their roll numbers, please do that. Don't make me say the same thing again and again. Thanks for your patience. Okay, someone asked me to explain these graphs again. I'll explain you both the graphs again. Is that okay? If I explain both the graphs again, Soham? You want both or any one? Both. Okay. See, what is happening in average demand function is whenever we are having the demand at a level of D1 and L1, our level of employment is OL1. But as and when our demand is rising from point D1 to D2, the level of employment is also rising. And this keeps on rising until and unless our economy is reaching to full employment level. Once we are near the employment level, what is happening is, I'll increase the size of the slide and then you'll be able to see this. There is a very subtle, very clear straight line in the horizontal way. Are you able to see this line? Here you can see that it is very steeply rising, because as and when you keep on increasing the employment, the disposable income in the pocket of an individual keeps on increasing, and hence the demand rises very steeply. But after that, it is not showing that long demand. See here, you can see that the line is having a subtle zigzag. Are you able to see? It is taking longer time for every line to be formed. Are we clear? As and when this will move upwards, we are reaching a point which is called full employment point. And whenever the economy is near the full employment point, this will become completely elastic. ये इसको कोई मतलब ही नहीं रहा आप डिमांड से. The employment is no more dependent on demand. No matter what happens to the demand, if this wants to go ahead, it will keep on going ahead. It will not move as per the discretion of the demand price. Now what is happening in the supply function is, okay, now what is happening in the supply function? We are already having the labor supplied with us. So we are able to produce goods and sell them in the market. So whenever the supply is reaching the point of S1 and L1, we are able to see that the employment is not increasing too much. It is flatter, because आपके पास जो भी labor है, they are able to produce a certain level of output. But in the short run, as soon as you increase the supply from S1 L1 to S2 L2, you cannot have any technical changes. Am I right? You cannot change your technique. Yes, there is no negative relation between the employment and average demand. That way you're true. But after a point of time, they are nullifying one another. कोई effect नहीं हो रहा है एक दूसरे पे. That is what is happening with this aggregate supply function also. After a point of time, it is finding itself incompetent to increase the level of employment, whereas the sales is becoming completely elastic. Supply is becoming completely elastic. वो बढ़ती जा रही है, बढ़ती जा रही है, बढ़ती जा रही है. Is that visible from this? See, this is the aggregate supply price, and we are able to see that the aggregate supply price is constantly rising, whereas the employment is stuck now. It is not increasing any further. Are we clear with this now, Soham? Okay, so with this, As said earlier in this slide, that will be talking about aggregate demand function, aggregate supply function, and the equilibrium level of employment. So when we've already discussed the aggregate supply and aggregate demand function, let's move towards the determination of equilibrium level of employment. Now, according to Knies, equilibrium level of employment in the short run is determined by the level of effective demand. That is, equilibrium level of employment is maximum usable income. In the short run, yes, it is determined by demand. The higher the level of effective demand, the greater would be the level of income and employment, and vice versa. जितनी कम डिमांड होगी उतना कम एम्प्लॉयमेंट होगा, जितनी ज्यादा डिमांड होगी उतना ज्यादा एम्प्लॉयमेंट होगा. So as here is the figure that I will be referring to. This is figure number 3. In this, we are having both the demand and supply function. This is the blue one is the aggregate demand price, and the green one is the aggregate supply price. Now, what they're telling us is that, as we've already discussed, that the aggregate demand function is showing us the amount of total receipts which all the firms expect to receive from the sale of output produced by the given number of workers employed. And ASF will show the total amount of receipts which all the firms must expect to receive from the sales of output produced by the given number of workers employed. Are they saying the same thing? No, they're not saying the same thing. Here they are just talking about expectation, where here they are saying that the firm must expect to receive. So the entrepreneur will expand the output as long as there are opportunities to make profits. They'll keep on. Now here it can mean that up to OL level of employment, aggregate demand price is greater than the aggregate supply price. That is up to this level. As we can see over here, that up to this point, the aggregate demand price was higher than the aggregate supply price, but here they are coming to be in sync with one another at OL level. The level of employment is coming to be similar. Thus, at any level of employment up to OL, there would be expansion tendency in the economy, and therefore the rise of level of employment is possible. But beyond this level of employment, aggregate demand price is less than the aggregate supply price. So the producers will expect less return from the cost of production, and as such, they'll prefer to cut down the output. Thus, any level of employment beyond OL, there would be contradictory tendencies in the economy. So whenever there is a contradictory tendency in the economy, the chances of fall in employment are higher. After this level, there are high chances that the employment will not rise. So the explanation is over here that at OL level, the employment aggregate demand price equals the aggregate supply price. So now there is no tendency towards the economic expansion or contraction. Thus, OL can be treated as an equilibrium level of employment. That is, point E can be said to be the point of effective demand. वहां जितनी demand है उतनी supply है, so that is at equilibrium. It is equal to one another, and it represents the level of aggregate demand price that is equal to aggregate supply price, which can be reached in the short run equilibrium position. Moreover, E is a point which is at a less than full employment equilibrium, and there is LLF here. LLF here we are talking about full employment, but E is not here. E is before that. So it is important to note that according to Keynes, this unemployment is due to the deficiency of aggregate demand, and at full employment level there exists the gap between full employment level of aggregate supply price and the corresponding level of aggregate demand price. Full employment cannot be achieved. Okay, here I'll stop our today's lecture. If anyone is having on what we have done today is we've had a discussion about the criticism of Say's law, and we were trying to understand the three basic points of Keynes theory of income and employment, that is aggregate supply price, aggregate demand price, and the equilibrium level of employment with respect to these two. So if anyone is having a doubt, they can put up the question. Soham, why are you putting up your attendance now? So whatever it is, if anyone is having a question, they can ask, they can put up the questions. And if you are clear with what we have done today, then you can leave the class. Oh, whomsoever is entering the attendance now will not be marked as present. And I'm very serious about it. If you're marking your attendance right now, you'll not be marked as present. Only the people who have marked their attendance till 12:25 will be marked as present. And I'll keep on reducing this time because you people are not coming in the class. You too stay safe, beta. So you'll just come to the class in order to mark the attendance, Prabhat. That is what you're telling me. I'm stopping the recording so that whomsoever is left out is left out. You're not allowed to mark the attendance in the last minute.